He was the hero of the department, the man who cracked the hardest cases. When a string of brutal murders terrorized a small town, Detective Frank Morales was the first on the scene, and always the last to leave. People trusted him. Families thanked him. Reporters called the cop with a sixth sense. But what no one knew was this. While Frank was chasing the killer, he was also hiding something. Something that would make the entire nation ask one chilling question. What happens when the man hunting monsters is one himself? Frank Morales was a legend in the making, a decorated detective with 15 years on the force, respected by rookies and captains alike. He wasn't just good at his job, he was obsessed with it. He worked late nights, skipped meals, slept in his car during stakeouts. People said he didn't just chase justice, he lived for it. His co-workers whispered about his gift. It's like he knows what killers are thinking, one officer told a reporter. So when the first body appeared, a young woman named Lisa Bryant, Frank was the obvious choice to lead the investigation. Lisa was found in her apartment, strangled. A single red rose laid across her chest. No signs of forced entry. Frank stood over the body, silent for a moment. Then he said something that would later send chills down everyone's spine. This isn't random. This is personal. 2 weeks later, another victim. Same signature. Same brutality. Then a third. Then a fourth. All young women. All in their 20s. All found in their homes. And always with that one crimson rose. The press gave him a name. The Rose Killer. Fears spread like wildfire. Women bought pepper spray. Installed extra locks. The small town stopped feeling safe overnight. But Frank, he seemed energized. Like a man possessed. He gave emotional interviews, his voice cracking on camera as he promised, "I won't rest until this monster is off the streets." He comforted victims' families, held their hands, told them he understood their pain. What no one noticed, what no one even thought to look for, was how much he loved the cameras, how he lingered when the interviews ended, how he kept every newspaper clipping with his name in bold letters. He wasn't just solving the case, he was becoming the story. Behind the badge, Frank's life was crumbling. His marriage had collapsed. His wife had left 6 months ago. He rarely saw his kids. His temper was getting worse. He drank more than he admitted, and he hated losing control. Then came the detail no one connected at the time. Every victim had dated Frank at some point. Casual dates, brief flings, years ago. Forgettable, at least to them, but not to Frank. He had kept a list. Women who had rejected him. Women who had moved on. To Frank, they weren't just names. They were traitors. And in his twisted mind, killing them wasn't murder. It was justice. 6 victims. 6 roses. The department was desperate. They brought in FBI profilers. They examined patterns, timelines, psychological markers. The profile was chilling. Organized. Intelligent. Methodical. Someone with law enforcement knowledge. Frank read the report aloud in the briefing room and laughed. "Sounds like one of us," he joked. Everyone laughed too, because who would suspect Frank Morales? He was the hero, the face of justice. But behind that smirk, Frank was already planning his next kill. It all began to unravel on the 7th victim. A neighbor's security camera caught something, a black sedan parked 2 blocks from the victim's home. Same make and model as Frank's car. Still, suspicion didn't stick. He was a lead detective. Of course he'd be near the scene. But then came mistake number 2. At the crime scene, Frank was the first to notice a tiny thread from a glove under the victim's fingernail. He bagged it himself, before anyone else even saw it. Later, DNA showed the thread came from police-issued gloves. The killer wasn't just someone who understood law enforcement. He was law enforcement. Internal affairs went silent. They didn't confront him. They watched. They checked his phone logs, his GPS history, his bank records, and what they found was damning. Frank had visited every victim's neighborhood in the weeks before their deaths, but it still wasn't enough to arrest him. They needed proof in real time, and they got it because Frank couldn't stop. He decided to kill one more time, to make the pattern look random, to outsmart them all. But this time, the FBI was waiting in the shadows. They followed Frank one night, watched as he left the station after midnight. He drove 2 miles, parked 2 blocks from a quiet suburban house, slipped on gloves, walked in the dark like a predator. He broke in through the back door. The woman inside was asleep. Frank stood over her with a knife when the FBI stormed in, guns drawn, shouts everywhere. Frank didn't run, didn't fight, didn't even look surprised. He just smiled. "Guess the game's over," he said. In the interrogation room, Frank was eerily calm. He confessed to all 7 murders without hesitation, described the thrill, the planning, the way the power felt in his veins. When asked why, he said one chilling line: "I spent my life chasing monsters. One day, I realized I was better at being one." Frank Morales was sentenced to life without parole. The department was shattered. Detectives who called him a brother couldn't believe it. And the families, they were left asking, how do you protect yourself when the killer wears a badge? This case changed policing forever. Background checks tightened. Psychological evaluations became mandatory. But one question still lingers. How many other Franks are out there, hiding behind the badge? If you think the story ends here, you're wrong. Because the most shocking detail, Frank wasn't the first cop to kill, and he won't be the last. If this story chilled you, wait until you hear about the nurse who murdered dozens of patients and got away with it for years. Click the video on your screen now. And before you go, tell me in the comments, do you think killers like Frank join law enforcement to hide or to hunt? Subscribe for more stories that reveal the darkness hiding in plain sight.